Hey folks, welcome back to WarThunder. Today we're going to be looking at the F9F-8 Cougar in the US tech tree. The Cougar was first introduced in 1953 for the Dash 8 model we have in game, and it was developed as a progression of the F9F Panther line, giving it swept wings to aid with higher speeds in response to the Soviet MiG-15, which had far superior performance to the Panther's straight wing derivatives. The Cougar went on to have a quite illustrious career, being eventually fully retired in 1974, where it was replaced as an advanced naval training aircraft by a model of the A4 Skyhawk. But over 20 years for an aircraft back then is pretty good going, especially if part of that career involves a spell as the Blue Angels display aircraft, as well as setting a transcontinental speed record. It spent the majority of its life as a trainer, being replaced in 1958 for frontline service by the F-11 and the F-8 Crusader. The only variant to ever see combat was a two-seat trainer, which was used as an artillery observation aircraft rather than being used in anger directly with its own armament. So today we'll be seeing what we can get done with it here in WarThunder. Its contemporary in the land-based USAF being the Sabre, which it's all too easy to compare against in WarThunder, leaves the Cougar with a lot to be desired, being outclassed by the Sabre in almost every category. But I love an underdog, so I'll be talking you through some of my thought processes as we go through the footage. It might be outclassed in most metrics, but that doesn't mean it can't pull its weight with the right bag of tricks. Here in WarThunder, with our battle rating system, you'll see a fair mix of airframes aside from the MiG-15 in opposition, though the techniques for defeating all of them in a dogfight are largely the same, due to the Cougar's shortcomings, which we'll get into during the dogfight clips. Amongst players, it gets a bad reputation due to low engine performance with a thrust to weight of only 0.44 at combat weight on max thrust, which is made worse by its incredibly bad energy retention and climb rate. But the saving grace at its battle rating is the roll and instantaneous turn performance, at least for me. For most other people, it'll probably be the missiles, even though they're terrible. The guns are punchy, have very good reach, a nice spread pattern, and good damage on solid hits. It carries a frankly absurd amount of ammunition, but the rate of fire does mean that smaller targets can, at times, get through bursts unscathed. Let's get into the footage. Okay, first clip up for you today, and we are merging with the MiG-15 at 16, nearly 17,000 feet. We're carrying quite a bit of speed, but we're quite low on fuel and we have basically no cannon ammo left. So my initial approach to this was just try and avoid engaging him at all, and just try to run away, which is actually what I was on my way to do anyway. I'm trying to get back to base. During this sortie, I bombed a base. I took out 2 1,000-pound bombs and some rocket pods, and I shot down a whole bomber formation, so 6 bombers, which is why my ammo is so shitty. The thing we merged with, being a MiG-15, he can outperform us in every category except for 2, which are instantaneous turn and roll rate. The MiG-15 has a pretty terrible roll rate, but he can outspeed us, he can outclimb us, he can out-sustain turn us, he can out-everything us, and especially right now he can out-ammo us as well because we have 28 shots remaining. So how do I turn the tables on this guy? Well, if I can point my nose quicker and I can roll quicker, then that means I can get him to overshoot quite easily. And right now, because we're at 10,000 feet, I actually have some altitude to play with if I need to regain my speed, which helps to account for the terrible thrust weight of this thing. So what I'm doing now is doing some rolling scissors. I'm just rolling left, pulling, rolling right, pulling the other way. He's going to struggle to roll with me, which means that for each maneuver he tries to copy, he will close the distance. And all I need to do is roll in a way that doesn't let him point his nose at me. And eventually he's going to overshoot. Which is exactly what happens here. Unfortunately I don't get the shot first time, and he goes up. So I cannot follow him through this. But if I point my nose towards him, then it'll get him to keep coming back at me. Really what he should have done here is just run away and come back with energy, because then I'd have been a sitting duck with no speed or anything to play with, and he would have been able to just abuse me basically. But because he keeps rolling with me for some reason, I just have to roll out the way of his guns. You see I'm gaining altitude through maneuvers as well, so I'm not just going down, and then he comes in front of me. And that's all she wrote. Got extremely lucky there. I was really holding the shot until he crossed close. Moving on to a later game. So this time we're in a match that's, I think it's 9.0 max, so everything that we're going to encounter is better than us. I mean, everything that we encounter is better than us anyway. We're very high up, nearly 30,000 feet above the A point. And I've seen a Sabre underneath me. The Cougar really needs altitude to play with, because without it, it doesn't have energy. Because you have to dive to get speed. It's the only way you're ever going to match anything. The problem with having speed is that it compresses super badly. I'm literally full backstick right now. And look how that Sabre's peeling away from us without any effort whatsoever. He will have retained as much speed through that maneuver as we have through this one. But I'm forced now to use the speed that I have to put back into altitude, because if I stick around at the same altitude as him, I'm never going to be able to equalize his energy state, because he can just accelerate in a straight line. He doesn't need to lose altitude to get his energy back, but I really, really do. So every time I have energy to burn, I have to use it to climb or to dodge. One of the two. The only other time I'll use it is to get a gunshot that I can almost guarantee will be a kill, because if I waste energy getting a gunshot that doesn't pan out, then I'm left a sitting duck, and if the enemy is clever they can capitalise on that and kill me very easily. So flying the Cougar is very much a patience game. So right here I've lost contact with the Sabre. I'm high because I need to be high for energy. I'm in the cons because it means that if they come up to me, they'll probably climb quite quickly because they won't want the cons to give their position away. But it means that when they peak and they're in an engagement situation, they'll be quite slow. So I'm trying to bait them to come up to me, because if they come up here and they get slow, if both of us are slow, then I can come out of that better, like with the MiG-15 a minute ago. But if we're both fast, I can press and they don't. And if I pull hard, I get slow and they don't, which means that they get an advantage over me. So I'm just sitting up here, biding my time. They are capping the A point underneath me because I'm too high to be a part of the process, but I'd rather be alive than getting points, because you can't earn money if you're dead. So a guy in all chat just said that there's a Cougar up high, so I know that at least one of them has seen me, so I'm expecting someone to come along, which is why I'm diving a little bit just to use the cloud cover. Clouds really help me out here, because if I do end up having to dive a lot to get energy back really quickly, I can dive through a cloud and break line of sight, which helps to offset my terrible disadvantages. So this guy's coming in with his smoke on. Usually people use their smoke to either basically rip the person and say, oh, you're in a ship plane, this is going to be a free kill, that they're just like trolling me basically. Or the other way is to say that they've got a teammate nearby and they're trying to draw attention to the situation and get some support. I don't think this guy needs support, but I am aware of the fact that some might be coming, so another enemy just merged over us and he must have been carrying a heck of a lot of speed. He went straight vertical and we're already at 18,000 feet. So they've both got a massive, massive energy advantage on me. Thankfully the second one that came in without his red smoke on doesn't seem to be as clued up to the situation as the first guy was. So I'm paying more attention to red smoke guy for the time being, and I'm briefly using clouds to break line of sight to try and get my energy back. And now I've got speed, I'm using it for altitude, which is right as I see the guy behind me. So if I pull quickly, I can try and force an overshoot in a similar way to what I did with the MiG-15 earlier. So he can't pull with me. As he comes around me, he'll be wide, which means I can pull in front. I miscalculate, and he ends up clipping my right flap. So the Cougar actually doesn't use ailerons, it uses spoilers, kind of like the F-14. So what he just shot off there hasn't impeded my mobility at all. But it does mean that I'm having to counteract some right side roll constantly. Even though I feel like it should be left side roll, but that's just WarThunder's damage models for you. And he broke contact.
Need backup.
He probably doesn't realise how little damage he actually did. I'm actually still combat effective, I just have to be very careful. More careful than I was before, because with critical damage, you struggle to get speed even more than before, which obviously is a problem in this thing. But if it comes to trying to turn, trying to maneuver, I still can to a fight-worthy standard if it comes down to it. So Sabre broke contact again, but I do see something over here, so I'm going to try and extend away and start pushing back towards friendly lines, because right now I'm obviously not in a great state to be fighting. I can if I have to, but I'd rather not have to at all. But I am still worried about him finding me, and that is what has happened. So again, MiG-15 overshoot tactic, roll one way, turn, roll the other way, pull, and that's going to get him to close in. Hopefully I'll time it better and not get hit again this time. So he's getting pretty close, so I'm just going to roll to nose counter. If I can just position myself in a way that prevents him from getting nose on. And we get him to overshoot. And he quite intelligently dives away. So I know now that this guy knows what my limitations are, which means that to ever win this fight I'm going to have to pull something really stupid that he wouldn't expect me to do. So he knows I need altitude for speed, so he's not going to be expecting me to dive with him low down. I got very lucky that he didn't hit me with that gunshot there. I think that the fact that I surprised him meant he mistimed his trigger pull. And here he's not going to expect me to go into a head-on. I'm not even sure he realises that I am head-on, and this is really stupid. But it actually pans out. He did get more hits on us, but we got more hits on him, and he only has 50 cals, we have 420 mils. So in a head-on, the Cougar's generally going to win. Moving on to the next clip. So there was a guy in this match in an Ariete, which is the most under-tiered, stupidly overpowered jet in the game probably. And he kept challenging me to a one-on-one, which I really wanted to try because I just wanted to test myself. He was boasting about having beaten an F16 in a previous game. But this Key 200 kept interrupting. So the Key 200, for those that don't know, is a Japanese copy of the ME-163 rocket plane. It's extremely small, it's super nimble, it has a literal rocket engine in it, so it can literally outperform me in literally every possible metric there is, except for longevity on the battlefield. This thing has like 6 minutes of fuel, and this map is huge. So initially, I was just trying to run him out of fuel. And for the first encounter with him, that did actually pan out. So just like with the other two guys, obviously I am slow, but I can pull quick. I can rotate my nose around quite a lot, quite quickly, but I lose a lot of speed doing it. So as long as I can stay out of his guns repetitively, he'll eventually run out of fuel and have to go back to rearm. And if he doesn't, he'll end up with no fuel trying to dogfight me, and that's when I can get my window in. So remember, every time I go down, I can't go down too far because I have to be able to climb back up to at least the same level or higher to be able to get my energy back. So I'm diving quite aggressively now. I'm getting my speed up quite a bit. But I'm going to have to use the speed that I've got to go back up no matter where he goes. And he doesn't have the problem. See, he's going down, I'm not going to follow him because I need to stay up high. He doesn't have the problem of climbing quickly because he has a literal rocket attached to his plane. But climbing with his throttle high, and in WarThunder you can vary the throttle. Obviously in real life it's a rocket, it's either on or off. By varying the throttle in this game you can make 6 minutes take a lot longer, or 6 minutes of fuel last a lot longer I should say. So he's playing it smart, he's diving so he knows I won't follow. And then he's using his rocket engine to climb back up, then he's just basically lingering at like 30% throttle to stay with me, and he can hang out for way more time than you really should be able to. But here, because I'm ridiculously low on fuel, thankfully that guy buggered off, he goes back to rearm, and then I'm going to come back into it from after a rearm. So we're back in and he's climbing back up behind me again. I'm trying to set up with Ariete man, so the fact that we're chatting about grid references in the chat is kind of making this guy, he knows exactly where I am, so it's very easy for him to find me. So I'm diving because I need speed, because I need to be able to turn, because without energy I can't maneuver, and if I get too slow, although I might be able to turn around quite quickly, I don't really move whilst I'm doing it, and it just makes me a very easy gunshot. Ariete is the guy smoking from the wingtips. I'm not sure at this point whether he's gonna like honour the fact that he wants me to 1v1 him, or if he's going to help the 163/Key200 just double team me. So I'm being conscious of the fact that both of them might be a threat. I'm primarily focusing the Key200 because I know that he's gunning for me. The fact that the Ariete hasn't already killed me is giving me pause to think that he's probably going to try and leave me to deal with this guy, and then we can have the 1v1. Yeah, so he's over there. He's not pulling me. He's not pulling me into his hood. He's not trying to gun for me. I think that I can just ignore him. But look how slow I am, and look how easily the 163 is rating around me, no problem. So I'm diving for speed, reversing my turn as he comes behind me. You one circle everything in the Cougar. There's literally no plane I can think of in the game that you would be able to two circle effectively. Especially not one with a rocket engine on it. So do you remember in the intro I said that the rate of fire on the guns is such that small things can sometimes get between your bursts? Well, watch how many times this guy should have died. So I'm not trying to pull hard to follow, I'm lagging my turn on purpose, because if I pull too hard all it does is make me slow, and if I'm slow I can't fight effectively, so I'm dragging the fight out, I'm getting some separation, I'm getting some altitude, and then when he comes back around I can dive for speed as he re-engages me, lose that altitude that I gained, potential energy, and it just gives me the energy I need to stay out of his guns. It's not really giving me the energy I need to kill him, at least not effectively, but I do get guns on a couple times in a minute, because he's getting complacent, so he should have really been dead there, but he literally just flew between the bursts. So he's getting complacent, he's rushing things. He could, if he just extended further and went up more, he could just repetitively dive on me, he could energy trap me, and there'd be literally nothing at all I'd be able to do apart from run away in a straight line and try and drag his fuel out. And again, he should have been dead there as well. I'm getting very unlucky, or he's getting very lucky, one or the other. And look how much altitude I've lost. We're down to 10,000 feet. I think it was like 17, 18,000 at the start. I can't keep this up forever. So he loses Viz here. But I can't just go for the shot, because if I miss it, then he will just maneuver to kill me. So I was trying to sort of drag it out long enough to hope that he didn't see me and ace the shot, you know, because if I missed, he would just immediately know that I was there. But I delay too long, I can't get the shot, I can't pull so hard to get it quicker because it would bleed the energy off and I'd be in a more disadvantaged state. It's just a very tricky aircraft to fly, and really the Key200 is so many leagues ahead of what this thing is capable of that it's honestly a miracle I survived for as long as I did. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the shot there. I should have probably jettisoned the missiles, because they were never going to do me any favours in a manoeuvring dogfight anyway. And at this point, he finally gets the idea that if he just separated a little bit more and shot at me from longer range, then there's not a lot I can do about it. So I'm trying to reverse my turns and get him close again like I have been in the other engagements, but I misjudge how much reach those 30mm have, and he just absolutely cripples me. And then he finishes me off. Okay, so the last clip of the video is the same as from the beginning, except from the cockpit. So we're in the A point, we've got a MiG-15 up ahead, and for now I'm unaware of the IL-28. So I have an altitude advantage on this guy. I'm not sure he knows where I am. I think he's probably looking for the guy capping the A point, just as I'm looking for the guy that's preventing me from capping the A point. But I'm playing for energy here. I could be pulling lead to get closer to him, but instead I'm lagging it a little bit. AIM-9Bs are woeful, and I really wasn't expecting that to hit anyway, but at least I am now a missile lighter for manoeuvring. You see how I'm going up here? I need the altitude if he starts manoeuvring on me, and as he turns in I might actually get a head-on gunshot. Unfortunately my aim is terrible, so it doesn't pan out. Going up again, if I can stay above him at all times, then I actually stand a hope in hell of doing something against this guy. And I'm not really considering the IL-28 much of a threat. It absolutely can be, so I'm not ignoring it. But whilst we're manoeuvring up high and we're doing vertical manoeuvres, a mid-sized bomber is going to struggle to follow through that. So I'm now extremely slow. And he's at roughly the same altitude that I am, so he has all the advantages here. So I'm going to have to use the fact that I have a superior instantaneous turn to try and pull him into the gun sight and go for a sort of head-on shot as he comes back up, because as I'm going down I'll be fast, as he's coming up he'll be slow, and that offers me my best opportunity to get a shot in. But every time I pull hard for a shot that doesn't land, I'm just bleeding my energy off that I could be using to get separation or altitude. So really this is a stupid move, but thankfully it pays off. And then I'm much, much higher than the IL-28, which is of minimal threat anyway, and usually I would use missiles for targets like this, but because of the aspect that's just not going to pan out. And I think you already saw what happened in the intro anyway, so I'm just rating around him until I get him in the sort of position where I can dive on him without overshooting. And that's about enough separation to get the nose around. We'll gain speed as we close in, so we can boom through if we miss, because he does have a tail gun. But we don't miss, and there he goes. So I hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Thanks a lot for watching. Sub for more, click like if you liked it, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.